Ferrari's engineers have made key upgrades to Lewis Hamilton's SF25. Stick around until the end if you want to discover the details that could crown Hamilton as the champion of the Japanese Grand Prix. Subscribe only if you want Hamilton to win his 8th World Championship and be crowned as the greatest driver in history. In a season already overflowing with seismic developments, dramatic reversals of fortune, and whispers of shifting allegiances, the anticipation building around the next Grand Prix has taken on an almost mythological weight. Formula One, never content with being a mere sport, continues to evolve into something far more operatic, a spectacle of speed and strategy layered with high-stakes psychological warfare, corporate ambition, cutting-edge science, and unrelenting political undercurrents. At this moment, as freight planes crisscross the globe carrying ultra-secret components, as team principals engage in tense, hushed conversations in paddock hospitality suites, and as engineers work against the clock, one narrative seems to be drawing more focus than any other: Ferrari's audacious attempt to rewrite their 2025 destiny, starting now. The Scarlet Team from Maranello, the oldest, most iconic and perhaps most mythologized outfit in Formula One history, finds itself in the throes of a battle not just for championship points but for relevance, identity, and redemption. Ferrari is not merely a racing team, it is a living, breathing monument to Italian engineering, to national pride, to a past defined by glory and a future that is being shaped in real time under immense scrutiny. The pressure inside their garage is not figurative, it's tangible, thick in the air, hanging over every decision, every millimeter of downforce, every glance exchanged across the pit wall. Coming into this crucial phase of the season, Ferrari's journey has been marred by inconsistency. Their campaign thus far has been like a brilliant novel with pages torn out, flashes of genius rendered incoherent by underlying technical fragility. At times, they've demonstrated blistering pace over one-lap qualifying runs, hinting at aerodynamic efficiencies and mechanical grip that rival the best on the grid. And yet, once the lights go out on Sunday, something always seems to unravel. Tire degradation that falls outside the simulation models, aero balance that drifts under high fuel loads, and sudden stints of rear instability in medium-speed corners have all conspired to sabotage what could have been race-winning performances. Subscribe only if you want Hamilton to win his 8th World Championship and be crowned as the greatest driver in history. Behind the scenes, Ferrari's technical division has been locked in a brutal war with physics itself. The issue isn't isolated to a single component or a specific concept, it's systemic, woven into the very architecture of the SF24. The team has struggled to find harmony between ride height optimization and platform stability, particularly in circuits where rapid direction changes and elevation shifts expose every aerodynamic weakness. The car simply doesn't respond well when pushed beyond a certain threshold. It's as if the machine demands to be driven delicately, an almost paradoxical request in a sport that rewards absolute commitment and punishes hesitation. Enter the floor upgrade, a radical reinterpretation of Ferrari's entire underbody philosophy. Originally scheduled for debut in Bahrain, this component has undergone a prolonged gestation period. Ferrari's decision to delay its introduction was not born of hesitation, but of an obsessive attention to detail. The simulations indicated potential gains, but the margin of error was razor-thin, and the team wasn't willing to roll the dice prematurely. Suzuka, with its sweeping high-speed corners and surgical precision requirements, may seem like an unusual battleground for such a bold experiment, but in Ferrari's mind, it's exactly the kind of test that will separate pretenders from contenders. This new floor isn't just a tweak, it's a full-scale aerodynamic reboot. The design features an evolved Venturi tunnel geometry, optimized vortex generators, and an innovative approach to airflow conditioning that aims to stabilize the rear axle under transient loads. More intriguingly, it introduces a novel method of controlling boundary layer separation, a detail that has been the secret sauce in Red Bull's dominance over the past 2 seasons. If Ferrari can replicate even a fraction of that effect, they could fundamentally shift the balance of power. The intent is clear: create a platform that permits a lower static ride height without inducing bottoming or porpoising, allowing for more aggressive rake and tighter packaging around the diffuser. This change alone could unlock a cascade of benefits: better tire preservation, more consistent corner exits, and significantly improved energy recovery system (ERS) efficiency due to smoother torque delivery under throttle. What's more, this new setup is rumored to integrate directly with a revised suspension mapping strategy, one that dynamically adjusts load transfer characteristics without breaching the sport's rigid mechanical legality frameworks. But the technical stakes are only half the story. This upgrade exists in a vortex of expectation, speculation, and internal politics. Every choice made by Ferrari's technical team now feeds into a larger narrative, one that encompasses the future of Charles Leclerc, the role of Carlos Sainz in a shifting driver market, and the looming question of whether Frédéric Vasseur has both the autonomy and the backing to rebuild Ferrari into a championship juggernaut. The pressure from Maranello's upper echelons is unrelenting, and within the F1 paddock, few secrets stay buried for long. Already, whispers are circulating that this floor concept is not just about salvaging the present, but also a dress rehearsal for the chassis direction of their 2026 car, a project already being prototyped behind closed doors in Ferrari's heavily guarded design labs. Subscribe only if you want Hamilton to win his 8th World Championship and be crowned as the greatest driver in history. To make matters even more electrifying, this Ferrari gamble is unfolding against the backdrop of an increasingly unstable competitive landscape. Red Bull, while still leading the championship, has shown signs of vulnerability. Mercedes remains enigmatic, capable of brilliance one weekend and bafflement the next. Aston Martin and McLaren are circling like sharks, their own development programs gathering momentum. The window of opportunity is narrow, but it is open, and Ferrari knows it. Within the paddock, there is no shortage of intrigue. Rival teams have already begun to dispatch photographers with telephoto lenses to capture every millimeter of Ferrari's new floor. Technical directors from other outfits are undoubtedly preparing CFD models of what little they've seen. Meanwhile, tire suppliers are closely monitoring Ferrari's stints during FP1 and FP2 to see how the new aero balance interacts with degradation profiles. Data analysts from across the grid are already preparing overlays and sector comparisons, dissecting every frame of onboard footage for clues. But perhaps the most compelling element of all is the emotional investment from the fans. The Tifosi are not just spectators, they are part of the team's DNA. They carry decades of hope, heartbreak, and triumph in their cheers, their chants, their unwavering loyalty. When Ferrari soars, they soar. When Ferrari falters, they bleed. This isn't just about physics and telemetry. This is about faith. About heritage. About the primal urge to believe that the Cavallino Rampante will once again rise to the top, not through luck or circumstance, but through ingenuity, courage, and the relentless pursuit of perfection. As the Suzuka weekend approaches, all eyes will be on every movement in the Ferrari garage. Every change in ride height, every front wing angle adjustment, every radio message will be scrutinized with forensic intensity. And when the red cars finally roll out onto the circuit, every tenth they gain or lose will echo far beyond the track limits. Because in Formula One, nothing exists in isolation. Every bolt turned, every component swapped, every line of code updated in a simulator is a ripple in a far larger ocean of consequence. And for Ferrari, this upgrade is more than just a technical enhancement. It's a declaration. A line in the sand. A challenge not only to their rivals but to themselves, to rise, to adapt, and to reclaim the greatness that once seemed eternal. Behind the closed doors of Ferrari's high-tech headquarters in Maranello, a storm is quietly brewing. Whispers, first hesitant, then increasingly insistent, have begun to echo across the Formula One paddock, and they all point in the same direction. Frédéric Vasseur is orchestrating a bold, high-stakes push to accelerate the rollout of one of Ferrari's most critical upgrades in recent years. We're not just talking about any update, but a radical redesign of the car's floor, a component that sits at the very heart of modern F1 performance, dictating everything from aerodynamic efficiency to tire behavior, from downforce levels to ride stability through high-speed corners. The urgency behind this move isn't driven by panic, it's driven by vision. Vasseur, known for his analytical mind and deep racing pedigree, seems to understand that this moment could define Ferrari's trajectory for the entire season. Internally, the pressure is immense. The team has reportedly thrown everything behind the single upgrade, prioritizing wind tunnel hours, simulation resources, and manufacturing capacity to meet a deadline that is, by any standard, almost absurdly ambitious. The goal? To have the new floor ready for Suzuka, a circuit that is as unforgiving as it is iconic. Now, to the casual observer, it may seem like swapping out the floor of a Formula One car is a simple mechanical task. In reality, it's an engineering odyssey of the highest order. The floor is not just a structural component, it's the aerodynamic soul of the car. With the current generation of ground effect machines, airflow under the car is everything. 1 millimeter here or a slight curve there can mean the difference between generating maximum downforce and destabilizing the entire balance of the car. Ferrari's designers and aerodynamicists have been working around the clock, iterating through dozens, if not hundreds, of digital models before committing to final specs. The process includes advanced CFD simulations, physical validation in the wind tunnel, structural tests for stiffness and vibration, thermal modeling to ensure cooling systems remain effective, and compliance checks to satisfy the FIA's strict technical guidelines. All of this must happen before the logistical gauntlet begins. Once the prototype is signed off, it needs to be fabricated using ultra-lightweight composite materials, layered with carbon fiber to millimeter precision. Then comes the transportation phase, which, under such tight timelines, borders on a military-grade operation. Components must be rushed from Italy to Japan via air freight, with customs clearance, temperature-controlled handling, and meticulous scheduling to ensure everything arrives at the paddock in perfect condition and ready for installation. The sheer number of people involved, engineers, machinists, aerodynamicists, logistics coordinators, customs agents, software analysts, is staggering. If Ferrari succeeds in bringing this to Suzuka, it will be more than just an upgrade. It will be a message broadcast to the rest of the paddock at deafening volume. Ferrari is no longer playing the waiting game. They are not here to react. They are here to lead. It would represent a seismic shift in how the team is approaching development, an aggressive, proactive philosophy rooted not in desperation, but in a rekindled belief that they can once again become the benchmark. For Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, the timing could not be more pivotal. Leclerc, forever the hopeful heir to Ferrari glory, has endured season after season of near misses, plagued by strategic missteps and technical gremlins that have robbed him of victories that felt within reach. For him, this new floor could be the turning point, the moment when potential finally aligns with execution. Hamilton, on the other hand, finds himself in uncharted territory. The seven-time world champion has stepped into Ferrari with the weight of expectation heavier than ever before. He's not just racing for himself anymore, he's carrying the dreams of a fanbase desperate to see Ferrari back on top. For both drivers, this upgrade is not merely about tenths of a second, it's about momentum, belief, and perhaps even legacy. But the stakes, of course, swing both ways. Ferrari has been burned before by upgrades that looked promising in the simulator but fell apart on the racetrack. Their struggle with data correlation has been a painful Achilles heel in recent seasons. If this new floor fails to deliver, if it creates inconsistencies, introduces porpoising, or simply doesn't produce the expected aerodynamic gain, the cost won't just be developmental. It could trigger a morale collapse within the team, erode driver confidence, and open the door for rivals to surge ahead at a critical phase in the championship. And while all eyes are on Ferrari's race against time, another team is stealing headlines in a completely different way. Red Bull Racing, the undisputed kings of both performance and presentation, have once again demonstrated their mastery of the Formula One narrative. This time, it's not through an upgrade or a dominant win, it's through a breathtaking visual homage that has stirred deep emotional currents within the fanbase. With the unveiling of a limited edition white livery for their RB21 chassis, Red Bull has once again proven they understand the soul of the sport as much as its science. The design is stunning in its simplicity, an elegant blend of clean white surfaces punctuated by sharp red and black accents, a color palette that pays tribute to their long-standing partnership with Honda. But this livery is more than just a marketing gimmick. It's a cultural celebration, one that honors not just the engineering collaboration between Red Bull and their Japanese power unit supplier, but the spirit of Suzuka itself, a track revered for its flowing corners, passionate crowds, and deep motorsport heritage. Longtime fans were instantly reminded of the legendary 2021 Turkey livery, a white and red tribute originally crafted for the Japanese Grand Prix before the pandemic altered the calendar. That design was a one-off masterpiece, but this new version feels even more poignant. It's restrained, confident, and timeless. In an era where many teams struggle to make their cars stand out visually amid sponsor-heavy branding, Red Bull has delivered something that feels both fresh and meaningful. It's a love letter to Honda, to Japan, to Suzuka, and by extension, to Formula One itself. This move is typical of Red Bull, calculated yet emotional, corporate yet intimate. They understand the power of image and identity in a sport that thrives as much on emotion as it does on speed. While other teams tinker with barge boards and DRS zones, Red Bull manages to ignite global conversation with a paintbrush, and in doing so, reinforce their position not just as champions on the track, but as storytellers of the sport's modern era. As the Suzuka weekend approaches, the tension is rising across the grid. In one corner, a legendary team is working through sleepless nights to bring a transformative upgrade to life, hoping it will mark the beginning of a new era. In another, a dominant force is reminding everyone why they are not only the team to beat, but the team that understands what makes Formula One truly magical. Somewhere between carbon fiber and culture, between datasets and dreams, this sport continues to find new ways to thrill, to surprise, and to capture the imagination of millions. And as the engines roar to life under the cherry blossoms of Japan, one thing is certain: this is no ordinary weekend. This is Formula One at its most human, and its most extraordinary. The spotlight this weekend shines brighter than ever on a young man whose journey through the intense, unforgiving world of Formula One has been nothing short of transformative. Yuki Tsunoda, the fiercely talented and unapologetically candid Japanese driver, is about to face the most pivotal moment of his racing career to date. For the very first time, he will step into the seat of a senior Red Bull racing machine, on his home circuit, in the heart of Japan, surrounded by the very fans who have followed his every move since his karting days. It's more than just a race weekend. It's an emotional crescendo, a symbolic homecoming, and perhaps, a once-in-a-lifetime shot at proving to the world, and to Red Bull's notoriously demanding leadership, that he is not merely a stopgap or a junior affiliate, but a legitimate contender for the team's future. The significance of this moment is staggering. Tsunoda isn't just representing himself, or even AlphaTauri, now rebranded as RB. He's carrying the weight of a nation's hopes, the legacy of Honda's storied partnership with Red Bull, and the dreams of every young Japanese motorsport enthusiast who has ever dared to dream beyond domestic circuits. This is the Suzuka Grand Prix, the crown jewel of Japanese motorsport, a temple of speed and heritage where heroes are made and myths are born. And this year, the entire global spotlight intensifies as Tsunoda finds himself at the center of it all, wearing a one-off livery designed to honor Japanese culture and Honda's legacy, surrounded by banners bearing his name, with thousands of fans chanting for him in unison. He is not merely participating, he is the protagonist of a global spectacle. The pressure? Absolutely suffocating. Not only does he face the daunting task of performing in front of an expectant home crowd, but he also enters a garage where perfection is the baseline and emotional resilience is often tested to its limits. The Red Bull organization is notorious for its laser-focused commitment to results, its zero-tolerance policy for mediocrity, and its swift, often brutal decision-making. Drivers are not nurtured gently here, they are forged in fire. The shadows of those who came before him, talents discarded after short tenures, potential left unfulfilled, serve as a constant reminder of just how cutthroat the environment can be. Yet Tsunoda arrives not as the hot-headed rookie who once stormed into F1 with equal parts speed and volatility, but as a reformed, more measured, emotionally aware version of himself. He's openly admitted to a critical inflection point that forced him to mature, the 2023 Bahrain Grand Prix. It was there, amidst the blistering heat and chaos of strategic misfires, that he let frustration boil over. After a questionable team call, he lashed out emotionally and went wheel-to-wheel post-race with Daniel Ricciardo in a move many saw as reckless. At the time, it was interpreted as immaturity, a lack of discipline. But Tsunoda didn't deflect. He didn't retreat into PR-trained silence. Instead, he used it as a mirror, a moment of raw self-awareness that revealed a painful truth: talent alone would not be enough. In a team like Red Bull, where mental strength is as vital as race pace, his emotional outbursts were liabilities. And so began a personal transformation that few noticed at first, but which now defines his current narrative. He sought psychological coaching, improved his communication with engineers, refined his feedback, studied telemetry more rigorously, and reprogrammed his racing instincts to prioritize long-term strategic thinking over short-term aggression. Even in interviews, his tone shifted, from defensive to reflective, from flammable to composed. He began carrying himself less like a young prospect and more like a future leader. And now, this Suzuka weekend is not just a return to home turf, it's a public demonstration of everything he has become. Yuki knows that outperforming Max Verstappen, a generational talent and the undisputed benchmark within Red Bull, is an almost unthinkable task. But that's not the point. What matters this weekend is how close he can get, how intelligently he handles high-pressure race scenarios, how well he integrates into the senior team's operational rhythm, and whether he can deliver results without the safety net of low expectations. He's stated with clarity that scoring points would be a satisfying result, but he also knows that symbolism carries weight. If he can run close to Verstappen, even if only for a few laps in clean air, or deliver a result that outpaces the secondary Red Bull car, it will send shockwaves through the driver market, and through Red Bull's internal hierarchy. Intriguingly, sources suggest there will be no team orders if Tsunoda finds himself ahead of Verstappen on merit. a shocking deviation from the team's historically rigid command structure. Whether that signals a shift toward a more open competition model, or simply a quiet confidence that Max will never be caught, remains speculative, but it's telling. Meanwhile, as Tsunoda rises, another storyline brews with increasing tension: the uncertain fate of Sergio Perez. The seasoned Mexican driver, once hailed as Red Bull's perfect number 2, now finds himself engulfed in speculation, with whispers of a post-Red Bull life growing louder by the week. His performance dropped dramatically mid-season last year, and though he's had flashes of brilliance since, inconsistency has plagued him. At 34, he stands at a career crossroads. But rather than facing a quiet exit from the sport, something unexpected is happening. Teams are circling. Among them, perhaps the most captivating suitor is Cadillac, a new entrant into the F1 sphere, bringing with them General Motors' vast resources and an ambition to become a true force on the grid. Insiders suggest Cadillac sees Perez as more than a driver. They see a brand ambassador, a development cornerstone, a veteran with the gravitas to guide a team through the chaotic early years of F1 competition. For months, the assumption was that Perez's F1 story was winding down. But the emergence of Cadillac, alongside other possible new projects and team reshuffles, has reframed the conversation. Suddenly, he's no longer a fading star, he's a highly desirable asset. Perez himself remains coy, publicly stating that he's in no hurry to decide his future, but there's a quiet confidence in his demeanor now, a shift from defensive to deliberate. He's letting the market come to him, rather than chasing opportunities. And in a sport where perception changes overnight, where yesterday's exit rumor becomes today's contract extension, the idea of Checo not just staying in F1, but leading an all-new team into battle, now feels entirely plausible. He has options, leverage, and perhaps most importantly, motivation. The fire still burns, and in a championship where stories matter as much as stats, Perez could yet script an incredible next chapter. As the engines roar to life and the Suzuka air vibrates with anticipation, the stakes have never been higher. On one side stands a young driver desperate to ascend into F1 royalty, armed with growth, hunger, and a moment that feels preordained. On the other stands a veteran fighting to reinvent himself, proving that he still belongs, not as an understudy, but as a leading man. In the theater of Formula One, where legends are made under pressure and careers swing on the edge of milliseconds, this weekend offers a tale of two drivers at opposite ends of their journey, both with everything to prove and nothing to lose. Beyond the glittering podiums and roaring engines, behind the scenes where ambition brews and egos quietly clash, Formula One is entering one of its most electrifying, unpredictable, and narratively rich phases in recent memory. Among the various storylines unraveling at blistering pace across the paddock, none is gaining more traction than the intensifying internal war brewing at McLaren. What initially appeared to be a healthy performance-driven partnership between two supremely talented drivers, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, has rapidly evolved into something far more layered, far more volatile, and infinitely more captivating. For years, Lando Norris had carved out a unique position at McLaren. A darling of the fans and a consistent performer, he was widely regarded as the face of the team's post-Honda revival. He survived McLaren's most turbulent years and emerged as the symbol of their resurgence. He brought speed, charm, and a modern marketing appeal that elevated the brand in the social media age. Internally, the garage seemed to orbit around him. There was no serious threat to his status, no one within arm's reach to challenge him on raw talent, consistency, or influence. Then came Oscar Piastri. The Australian's arrival was not just another rookie story. It was the entry of a prodigious talent that had already dominated every junior category he touched. Unlike many rookies who arrive in Formula One wide-eyed and hungry for experience, Piastri entered the sport with an unshakable sense of purpose. He wasn't here to learn, he was here to conquer. His precision behind the wheel, his calm under pressure, and his adaptability to complex strategies quickly made people sit up and take notice. What he lacked in media flair, he more than made up for with an ice-cold focus that mirrored the greats of the past. It's no exaggeration to say that his racecraft, particularly in variable conditions and under intense tactical pressure, has exceeded expectations for a driver in only his second season. Now, as the 2025 season unfolds, we are watching a genuine shift within McLaren. The team, once so clearly molded around Norris, is facing an identity crisis of its own making. Piastri is no longer just the future, he is the now. And the clash between these two titans in the making is no longer a silent one. Every sector time, every qualifying showdown, Every wheel-to-wheel moment tells a story of two men fighting not just for points, but for dominance, over each other, over the team, over the narrative of what McLaren will become. Insiders have begun to leak whispers that Piastri's multi-year deal, reportedly negotiated with surgical precision by his management, includes specific clauses forbidding McLaren from implementing team orders that could unfairly favor Norris. If true, this detail has explosive implications. It means the team's hands are tied. No coded radio messages. No swap and return agreements. No mid-race instructions to hold position. This is a bare-knuckle brawl under the most glamorous lights in motorsport, and it's playing out in real time. Piastri recently sat down with select media outlets in what can only be described as a bold declaration of intent. Calm, direct, and unflinching, he made it clear that he didn't come to Formula One to be anyone's understudy. There was no bitterness in his tone, just conviction. He's not here to wait his turn. He believes, perhaps rightly, that his turn is now, and he's driving like it. His qualifying performances have closed the gap to Norris to mere tenths, and in race conditions, his tire conservation and late race pace have already put the team in uncomfortable positions more than once. The looming triple header, with 3 Grand Prix weekends packed into a grueling back-to-back-to-back calendar segment, will be more than just a test of machinery. It will be an all-out psychological and physical trial for both drivers. This isn't just about track position anymore. It's about who can thrive under relentless fatigue, who can extract performance from a car operating on the razor's edge, and who can hold their nerve as internal politics quietly shift and external scrutiny intensifies. Behind the scenes, McLaren's leadership is walking a diplomatic tightrope. Team principal Andrea Stella is facing one of the most difficult tasks in modern F1 team management: how to let two future world champions battle freely without imploding team harmony, without sacrificing constructor points, and without losing either driver to a rival team that may promise clearer leadership. Because make no mistake, both Norris and Piastri are hot property. Other teams are watching. Contracts, as history has shown, are flexible when ambition, money, and opportunity collide. And while McLaren navigates this high-stakes civil war, another narrative is beginning to take shape at Aston Martin, one with the potential to detonate the entire grid hierarchy as we know it. Lawrence Stroll, known for his aggressive business instincts and grand visions, is reportedly laying the foundations for what could become the biggest driver acquisition in F1 history. Rumors are intensifying that Stroll is prepared to offer Max Verstappen a deal so massive, so creatively structured, and so future-focused that even the Red Bull ace might hesitate. This isn't just about money. It's about power, control, and legacy. Aston Martin, backed by a revitalized partnership with Honda and the imminent completion of their state-of-the-art factory, is building a case for championship contention in the post-2026 era. Verstappen, despite his dominance, has clashed behind the scenes with Red Bull's management, particularly amid the Christian Horner saga and internal Red Bull politics. If Aston can promise Verstappen autonomy, a tailor-made project, and an eventual role in shaping the future of the team, plus a competitive power unit, why wouldn't he at least consider it? But such a seismic move would have collateral damage. Chief among them, Fernando Alonso. The two-time world champion has shown no signs of slowing down and remains one of the sport's most cerebral, driven, and cunning competitors. Yet if Verstappen's arrival becomes a reality, Alonso may be gently nudged into a legacy role, perhaps as team ambassador, special advisor, or even an investor. It would be a poetic transition, but also a jarring one. How do you tell one of the sport's most enduring warriors that his time is up, not because of performance, but because of politics? As all of this swirls around the sport, the calendar now brings us to Suzuka, Japan's crown jewel of racing heritage and one of the most technically demanding circuits on Earth. Drivers speak of it in reverence. Engineers dread it. Fans adore it. And in 2025, the stakes are impossibly high. Every braking point, every throttle application, every tire choice is under the microscope. One mistake can unravel a season. One brilliant move can ignite a career. The sport stands at a threshold, caught between eras, between regulations, between kings and contenders. The pressure is beyond suffocating, it's intoxicating. Every lap pulses with consequence. Every rivalry simmers with danger. And beneath the surface, the future of Formula One is taking shape, battle by battle, choice by choice. This isn't just a championship. This is a war of philosophies. A test of character. A high-octane drama where machinery meets humanity, and only those who master both can ascend. In this world, you don't just drive fast. You must outthink, outlast, and outfight everyone around you. The story being written now will echo for years. The names, the risks, the sacrifices, they will become legend. And as always, in Formula One, the brave may not always win, but only the brave stand a chance.